Bronco fans and football fans everywhere. Welcome to Elevation Orange. This is a recap of the latest Broncos game, which was yesterday at home against the Minnesota Vikings. I am your host, Bronco Bill. All right, guys, let's get into this. I'll tell you what. First and foremost, I gotta bring up some very bad news, and it rears its ugly head again. And it comes again in the game last night. This is going to be, I think it's the 6th or 7th time that this has happened to Kareem Jackson. Injury? No, not at all. Suspension and possibly fines. It was just handed down today from the NFL commissioner's office that Kareem Jackson has been suspended up from 4 to 6 games, depending on the official review, but he is going to be suspended again. This is the 6th time, and I'm not saying 6 times to be suspended. He's been suspended, a couple of times this season, but this is his second one, and it's going to be a heavy fine. He's been fined for the other ones, and he's been kicked out of games for the other ones. Now, let me recap. Obviously, it's a recap show, so let me recap at what happened. Okay, it was the Broncos won the toss. They elected to defer. They kicked the ball to Minnesota. Minnesota's moving down the field, and it was, I believe it was 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1 inside Bronco territory. And it was, what's the name? Hawkinson, who was behind center, like in a pistol, and took the snap, and then he ran around the left end of the Minnesota Vikings line, ran around the left end, and then pitched it to Josh Dobbs, who then was immediately hit by Kareem Jackson with the helmet like right up around in this area, right here. The helmet kind of slid up and caught him in the head, but he led with his helmet, and he did launch. That's the rule that you cannot do. Kareem Jackson did it again. And the ball was jarred loose. It was actually jarred loose by Browning, and it was recovered by the Broncos. And that set up the Broncos' first points of 3 points. Reason why I brought that in, obviously, is because now I don't know if we're going to have P.J. Locke going against the Browns this coming Sunday. So if we don't, then we're going to go down to our 3rd or 4th safety behind Justin Simmons to fill the void that Kareem Jackson is not going to be in the Broncos backfield. He's not. He's not going to be in the Broncos defensive backfield. That hurts. How long do the Denver Broncos put up with this type of play by Kareem Jackson? He's just hurting the team. He's absolutely hurting the team. But I had to bring that up because I want to get the bad news out of the way first before I get to the really good news. All right? So, that being said, Kareem Jackson, once again, for those who are just tuning in, Kareem Jackson has officially been suspended by the NFL Commissioner's Office 4 to 6 weeks pending he's going to appeal it. I doubt it will be reduced. The reason why I say that is because when he had a 4-game suspension, 3 games ago, 2 games ago and a bye, so 3 weeks ago, it was a 4-game suspension. They reduced it to 2. I don't think they're going to reduce this one because he's doing it again. This was his first game back after being suspended, and he goes back on the suspension list. Not good. Not good at all. What is good is the Denver Broncos are on a 4-game win streak. All right, let me flash back to several games ago leading up to the game against the Vikings. All right. The Denver Broncos were 1-5. They played the Green Bay Packers at home and they beat them. Okay. It was a close game, but they still beat them. Then we had Kansas City at home on a Thursday, one of those days. And we had them on, a prime time. And we beat them handily 24-9 to snap the 16-game losing streak. All right. Then we went to Buffalo, and nobody gave us a chance against the Buffalo Bills, and we beat them on Monday night. Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, Orchard Park, New York. Cold, windy, everything that you wouldn't want the Broncos to be involved in, and they were. They won the game, very close game, but they won it nonetheless, 24-22. So going into last night's game at home, before I get into that, the NFL was considering to flex that game out of Sunday night before the Vikings won their 5th in a row and before the Broncos won their 3rd in a row. They were talking about flexing that game out. Thank goodness they didn't. It was an absolute barn burner of a game. It was the last night, Sunday night, prime time in Denver, sellout crowd, and there must have been 35% Vikings fans there. Absolutely, there must have been 35%. And it was uncanny because I don't ever recall, unless it's a Pittsburgh Steelers team, then those guys travel like crazy. But it's not so much the traveling of the Vikings as much as it is the Broncos not buying the tickets. Why wouldn't you buy the tickets when the Broncos are on a 3-game win streak? They're doing great. They're at home. It's a Sunday night. Okay, I get it. People have to work and parents have to work and so on. That I get it. And, kids are out of school and it's a whole Thanksgiving week. And so I understand that. I get that. But, man, I just did not like seeing that many Viking voices whenever they did something well. Well, the Vikings did do something well. And they did something well all game long. Now, after the Broncos got that fumble recovery from Josh Dobbs and turned it into a field goal, that's all the Broncos seemed to be able to do last night. Let me give you some stats real quick before I get into some other comments. All right, I'm not going to give you the final score yet. Most of you probably already know that, but I'm going to give the stats. So the stats for the Vikings was Joshua Dobbs was 20 of 32 for 221 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The prolific runner was Madison. He had 18 carries for 81 yards for an average of 4.5. The leading receiver was TJ Hockenson, no doubt, because Justin Jefferson didn't play. Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine if he would have played? Oh, the game would have been totally different, in my opinion. Key receiver was TJ Hockenson, 4 receptions for 55 yards, targeted 7 times. Josh Oliver, 4 for 47, 1 touchdown, targeted for 4. And then fumbles, we mentioned that Josh Dobbs, he fumbled 3 times, only lost 1. And Alexander Madison, he fumbled and lost that fumble. All right, let's go to the Broncos stats. Let me go. And I messed it up. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Oh, here we go. All right. Broncos stats are, let me get there. Russell Wilson was 27 to 35 for a touchdown, no interceptions, 0. Rushing was Javonte Williams, 11 carries for 37 yards, an average of 3.4. And Russell Wilson rushed for 2 for 1 yard. So he's not going to run much. Receiving, huge game by Courtland Sutton. I don't mean by necessarily yards or receptions or what. I'm talking about what he did later on. I'll get to that. Courtland Sutton, 4 receptions, 66 yards, 1 touchdown. That's key. And he was targeted 5 times. Samaje Perine, 7 receptions, 60 yards, and 7 targets. So he was perfect. Didn't miss a single pass. Jerry Jeudy, 5 for 58, targeted 7 times. And fumbles was there was 1 fumble. Perine, he got it back. And the Broncos did not lose a fumble. The Broncos did not lose or get a turnover interception from Russell Wilson. Okay, in the first quarter, the Broncos led 3-0. At the half, it was 10-9 Vikings. And then it went to 17-9 Vikings. And then it went 17-12. And you're good, Jay. And then it was 17-12, and then comes the fourth quarter. And that's what I'm going to talk about mostly in this recap is the fourth quarter. But I have to give a lot of props. I really do. I have to give a lot of props to the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason why I say that is their defense is insanely good. Very, very good. And you may look at it and say, well, the Broncos got a touchdown late in the end of the game, and that was a difference. Okay, that was a difference. But what was the reason why the Broncos had to get that touchdown to win the game? Why? Because the Vikings kept the Broncos out of the end zone for 58 minutes of the game. Actually, 59 minutes or 58 minutes and 57 seconds. Seriously. It was 1:03 when Denver scored that touchdown. There was 1:03 left. So 58 minutes and 57 seconds, the Broncos couldn't amount to anything but field goals. Period. Field goals. That was it. Nothing else. There were penalties. There were miscues. It wasn't a perfect game. It was I wouldn't say it was a sloppy game. It was a very, very well defense game by the Vikings. The Vikings played the kind of game they wanted to play. Absolutely. And they dang near pulled it off. And Josh Dobbs, and I mentioned this in my Friday show on Broncos Breakdown. Josh Dobbs reminds me so much of a Patrick Mahomes. Now, don't misquote me or put words in my mouth. I didn't say he's Patrick Mahomes. I said he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. He's elusive. We only sacked him twice, and we should have probably sacked him 5 or 6 times. But the guy is elusive. He gets out of the pocket. He makes things happen. He throws on the run. He runs for first downs. The guy is a good quarterback. He's a very, very good quarterback. And it's not his fault, in my opinion, that the Vikings lost. It's not. The fault lies, if I could put fault on the Vikings defense, the fault lies, in my opinion, that it seems like they went into a prevent or they allowed the Broncos, because they had stopped them all night. So they figured, okay, well, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing. We'll just get a little bit softer, let them catch things underneath, that kind of thing. Yes, Broncos have 3 timeouts and the Vikings have 3 timeouts. But in my opinion, they still felt that if they keep the Vikings, that is, keep the Broncos in the playing field, they would have to use their timeouts, which they did. And they burned their timeouts because they had to keep the drive going. Okay? So we're looking at a score of 20-15. And you're going, 15? I mentioned all the Broncos could do was get field goals. They got 5 of them. 5 field goals for 15 points. That brings us to the drive. And I'm not talking about the John Elway drive, but it was just as exciting, although it wasn't a playoff game. Still, in a way it was. On the neighborhood show last night with myself and Cam, we felt, both of us, I don't know, I can't put words about, but he did say it felt like a playoff game. And it should have, because the Broncos needed that win to get in or put themselves in position to be in the hunt. Are we going to make the playoffs? I don't know. We still have many games in front of us and many tough opponents. But I really thought going into this game, this was going to be a trap game. It was going to be a game in which the Broncos were going to have a letdown because they beat the Chiefs in primetime. They beat the Bills. Well, not primetime. I take it back. It wasn't primetime. We beat the Bills in primetime. And then we're coming home to play the Minnesota Vikings, who are on a hot streak, winning 5 straight. Yeah, sure, they got the third string backup in there, but he doesn't play like a third string. He plays like an absolute starter. And that'll be interesting when Kirk Cousins comes back next year, what they do with Dobbs. And it'd be foolish if they get rid of him. It really would be. The guy can make plays. That is obvious. He made plays last night. All right, so it's 20-15. 20-15. The Broncos have their ball, I believe, at their own 30, 25, 30, something like that. And just under, I believe it was like maybe a little over 2 minutes. I believe that's what it was. But they hadn't done anything all night. There's no way in heaven's earth that they could get a field goal and expect to get the ball back. That wasn't going to happen. They had to score a touchdown. Russell Wilson was throwing darts to Jerry Jeudy all night. He was throwing darts to Cortland Sutton, who made a fantastic catch on the left sideline over a defender, just outstretched the defender and came down with the ball. Okay, those are very key plays. But on the drive that the Broncos had to have, they got it done. I'll get into that in just a second. Want to bring in the leadoff batter, Christopher Shestak. Christopher Shestak, love it, man. Thanks for batting leadoff in the chat. Really appreciate it. He says to me, "Do you think the Broncos will make the playoffs?" Well, let me elaborate on a little bit more of last night, and then I will definitely touch on that, Christopher. So stick around. This show's not long. It's only about 20 minutes to 30 minutes long. That's it. It's just a recap. Okay, going into that drive, the Broncos were moving the ball down the field. The Vikings were allowing them to stay in the playing field and kept them in the playing field and so that they would have to use their timeouts, which the Broncos did. And then on an all-out blitz by the Vikings, Russell Wilson, right before he was hit, threw the ball into the end zone. I believe it was 35 yards out. Threw it into the end zone. Cortland Sutton jumps up over the defender, catches it with both hands like this. The defender comes down, hits his hand and his wrist, trying to knock the ball out. Cortland Sutton held on to the ball, came down in the end zone, both feet inbounds. The Broncos got the touchdown. Now the score is 21-20. And they go for two to force overtime should the Vikings get in position to kick a field goal. They go for two. They run the ball around the left side. It goes nowhere. Now my heart is pounding because now I know that Denver could lose this game 23-21 on a field goal by the Vikings. The Vikings get the ball. There's 1 minute and 3 seconds left. Plenty of time. Oh, by the way, the Vikings have all of their 3 timeouts. They didn't burn a single one on that Bronco drive. Not a single one. They have all 3 timeouts, 1 minute and 3 seconds, and Josh Dobbs as the Vikings quarterback. Okay? They start moving. Broncos defense. Did I say Broncos quarterback or Vikings? I'm sorry. If I said Broncos, I meant Vikings. Wow. The Broncos defense was absolutely stellar in that last possession by the Vikings. They had the ball. They're moving. They had to go down the field, obviously. They had to get a field goal to win the game, and the Broncos defense came up huge. I think they may have sacked him. Josh Dobbs, I know that there was many incompletions, and the Vikings' backs were against the wall. They had to get first downs, and it was incomplete on 4th down. Broncos held, ran the clock out, and the Broncos won the game against the Minnesota Vikings in Denver to continue their win streak. That's now at 4, and the win was 21-20. 21-20. All right. Now, do you guys, everybody out there, do you realize this? The Broncos went from last place last week. Even though they won, they were still in last place last week. But because the Chargers lost to the Packers 23-20 and the Raiders lost to the Dolphins 2013, the Broncos vaulted over both of them to be in second place. And you're saying, well, wait a minute. The Chargers have, 4 wins, but the Broncos got 5. Broncos are 5-5. They started this 4-game win streak at 1-5. They're now 5-5, and they're in second place. We own the tiebreaker over neither one yet because the Raiders beat us in week 1, and we haven't played the Chargers yet. But we're in position to control our own destiny. So let me get back to what Christopher asked me. I'm going to bring it back up again. Christopher asked me, do you think the Broncos will make the playoffs? Well, let me tell you this. Christopher. Let me bring out the schedule here. All right. The Broncos are in position right now at a 5-5 record. Okay. They only have one more NFC team to play, and that's a very, very difficult NFC team to play against, and that's the Detroit Lions in Week 15, okay? So next up on the schedule is the Cleveland Browns at Denver this coming Sunday. Cleveland is a very, very tough team. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Cleveland has the number one defense in the entire AFC? No, entire league. We thought the Vikings defense was tough. The Browns defense is even better. The Broncos had better be on their A game. Do I think we can beat Cleveland? Well, I thought at the beginning of the season we could, because Cleveland's Cleveland. They always lose. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. And I'll get into that and I'll give you my prediction when I do my show on Friday, the Broncos Breakdown show. After that is at Houston. That's not a cakewalk either. CJ Stroud is really, really good, and he's got the Houston Texans believing. And I got Everett over there as their head coach. So I don't know. That's going to be a tough game. So those are back-to-back tough games, all right? Then we play the Chargers in L.A. Now, the Chargers just lost to the Packers, and the Broncos beat the Packers. Does that mean the Broncos can beat the Chargers? It doesn't work that way. I wish it would, but it doesn't work that way. So I don't know. That could be a tough game too. Then we go to Detroit, and that's going to be an extremely tough game. So we got the Browns with the number one defense. We got the Texans with C.J. Stroud. We got the Chargers, who are trying to climb their way back into the playoff picture and the playoff hunt. Then we go to Detroit, who is a juggernaut right now. Detroit's 8-2 after 10 games. That's the first time I heard it yesterday. It's the first time since, I believe, 1961 or 62. And I heard them say that was when JFK, John F. Kennedy, was president of the United States. That's how long ago it's been since the Detroit Lions have been 8-2. That's crazy. That's a tough team. I'm not sure about that. And then we come home to play the Patriots. Well, we should beat them. The Patriots are not what the Patriots used to be. Absolutely not. They're pathetic this year. So we should be able to win that game. We got the Chargers at home, which is the Broncos' last home game on December 31st. Last day of the season, last day of the calendar year, and last home game. And then we go on the road to play the Raiders. Do the Broncos have their destiny in their own hands? Absolutely. But they have to perform. And in my opinion, the only way we're making the playoffs, Christopher, is if the Broncos only lose 2 games. Right now we're 5-5. If we end up 10-7, that's a pretty much of a lock to make the playoffs. 9-8, not so much. But what the Broncos' key is playing the AFC teams. They got to beat the AFC teams. We have to beat Cleveland because they're in the playoff picture. We have to beat Houston. They're in the playoff picture. We have to beat the Chargers twice because they're in the playoff hunt. And we have to beat the Patriots, and we have to beat the Raiders. If we lose to the Lions and we lose to one of the Charger games, that's the 2 games. The other ones we have to win. If we lose to Cleveland this Sunday, we can only lose one more game, and to me, that would be Detroit. That means we have to sweep the Chargers, we have to beat Houston in Houston, and we have to beat the Raiders in Vegas last game of the season. I don't know. I really don't know what to think right now, but I will get into that as each game progresses in the season. Okay? Now, going back to the game last night, what an absolute thriller. Absolute thriller. Was it I don't know, I was on pins and needles. I really didn't think we'd win that game. I really didn't think we'd win. But I remember saying on the neighborhood last night that we have to make this drive count. We have to score a touchdown. It was 4-down territory. Every single time it got to 4th down, it had to be executed, and it had to be done methodically, and it was. The play on that touchdown, on the blitz that the Vikings blitzed Russell Wilson, he steps up, just got rid of the ball in time, and Courtland Sutton jumps up and makes that incredible catch. And the Broncos wanted to trade Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Patrick Surtain, and Justin Simmons. And I mentioned last night in the show, you don't get rid of your cornerstones. You don't. And yes, I know that it was mentioned that the Broncos were 1-5 at the time. I don't care. I don't care if we 0-6. You don't get rid of your cornerstone players. It wasn't really the Broncos' fault. It was the coaching staff that needed to figure out how to win. The Bronco players are believing now. Sean Payton has got them believing in the system. Vic Fangio is making moves. Vance Joseph is making moves to accommodate the players' talents on defense, and it's working. The players are believing it. They're executing it. They're in the right spot. They're doing what they have to do. And in my opinion, the identity of the Broncos right now is moxie and moxie and hard hitting. They're a hard hitting team. I know everybody's going to go back to Kareem Jackson, who's got suspended again. I get that, but yes, they're hard hitting. Just got to do it in the right way. And the Broncos defense is hard hitting, and they've got moxie, they've got swagger, and by the way, they have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Russell Wilson, and they believe in themselves. They believe in this team, and they're on a 4-game win streak. And oh my gosh, I hope it continues next Sunday. I will give you the prediction that I have on my Friday show. I will give you that prediction. Going back to predictions, I thought that the Broncos would beat the Vikings, even though I was nervous. I thought they would beat the Vikings 24-20. Well, I got the 20 right, but it ended up 21-20. Either way, whether 4 points or 1 point, I don't care. The Broncos got the win, and that's all that matters. All right, let me go back to some chat here. Kamani is in the house. He says, hey there, Hitman Bill. Yeah, well, speaking of Hitman, well, that's Kareem Jackson now. He owns that, and not in a good way. But Kamani, thanks so much for chiming in. Kamani also says, what a game. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a fantastic game because we won. I would have loved for it to be more like the Kansas City game, 24-9, because I wouldn't have had a mild heart attack. No, I'm just joking, guys. I didn't have a mild heart attack. I'm just throwing that out there. But it felt very, very strenuous watching that game. It really did. It was one of those games where my heart was pounded. Ain't no doubt about it. Clayton Huron is in the house. Clayton says, hey, bud. I say, hey, Clayton. And of course, Clayton has a signature chat text that he puts out there. Smash that like button and share. Absolutely, guys. Keep sharing the channel, share the show, and share the network. I really do appreciate it. Clayton also says, was on the heels all night long. Yeah. Broncos just couldn't figure anything out until that last drive. But that's all that matters. Right? I mean, if you got one chance, one opportunity, like what's his name? God, I can't think of the name. One shot, one opportunity. Eminem. If you have that one shot, one opportunity, don't blow it, like he says in the song. Don't blow it. And the Broncos didn't. All right. Clayton says, love watching the game and listen to you guys. Hey, I appreciate it, Clayton. Thanks so much, man. Mike / Madungus Creevy will be back next week. Cam was filling in for him because Mike was at the game, and we were all scared to death that Mike would come back home again with another loss. With the Broncos win last night was the first time that Madungus Creevy had gone to a Broncos game where the Broncos actually won. So we were a little nervous. Me and Cam were a little nervous about that one, but Broncos came through, and the streak was broken for Madungus Creevy not being at a game where the Broncos won. All right, let's see. Clayton says, both sides, my guys, smash mouth football. Oh, yeah, it was. It was smash mouth football, big time. And thank goodness the Broncos prevailed. But I expected that. The Vikings have a very, very solid defense. I totally expected that to happen. And it did. Thank goodness the Broncos defense did what they had to do to stop the Vikings on their last drive to try and win the game with the field goal. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a fantastic game. Up next, like I mentioned, it's the Cleveland Browns at Denver this Sunday, Mile High Stadium, before the Broncos go on a 3-game road trip Very, very difficult road trip. You've got the Texans, like I mentioned, and then you've got who did I say it was? You got the Texans, then you got the Chargers, and then you got the Lions, and they're all on the road. If the Broncos can keep winning and keep believing and keep producing like they did the last 4 games, I have no doubt whatsoever that the Broncos, out of those 3 road games, should win 2 out of the 3. All right, and I'll get into more of that as I do my my Friday shows. That's definitely for sure, absolutely. Kamani says that Dobbs is going to be great. I think so too. I just don't understand why he's been on like 6 or 7 different teams, other than the fact that I did hear some of the announcers say that one of the main reasons that he wasn't accurate on the run. He sure changed that around, because he's very, very accurate on the run, and very, very accurate, period. There's no doubt about that. Clayton also says turnovers won us the game the last 2 games. Yes, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. It was a very close game against the Buffalo Bills that we needed turnovers, and we got 4 of them. And last night we got an interception and a fumble, and those were definitely key. You take away those 3 points that the Broncos got in that turnover by Dobbs on the opening drive by the Vikings, and we don't get those 3 points, we don't win. We absolutely don't win. Even if we get that touchdown, we don't win, because we only won by 1. So you take away 2 of those points, and we would have lost 2018. So you see, every point counts. Every single point counts. No doubt about it. Let's see. Kamani says, are you sure 10-7 will put us in the playoffs? We need other teams to lose too. That's true. That's very true. But if we can control our own destiny, meaning if we can take care of business on our side, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. And I'm hoping that a 10-7 will be good enough as a wild card. The Broncos are in the hunt right now. They're not in the wild card spot yet, but they're in the hunt. And if they keep winning and they keep performing like they're doing, there's no doubt in my mind, Kamani, as well as Christopher, who asked earlier the same question. There's no doubt in my mind that the Broncos have a very, very great opportunity. Does the loss to the Raiders and the loss to the Commanders in the first 2 games of the season hurt? Absolutely. Otherwise, we'd be 7-3. So yes, it hurts. Absolutely, it hurts. But we can't go back in time. We can't change that. All we can do is go forward. And I am very confident that in the last 8 games or 7 games, we got 7 games left. We played 10. Yeah, we got 7 games left. I'm very confident that the Broncos can win 5 of those 7. I just don't know where the second loss is going to come from. Is it going to come from Cleveland? Is it going to come from one of the Charger games? Because I know it's going to come from Detroit. If we beat Detroit in Detroit, that is going to be an absolute shocker. Almost as shocking as beating the Kansas City Chiefs after 16 straight games losing. That would be a shock because of the way the Lions are playing. If we somehow beat the Lions, who knows? After that, who knows? I mean, that would be an absolute game changer, season changer. But I'm not counting that game as a win. I'm saying that the Lions game is probably going to be a loss. So that means if we lose to Cleveland, we have to run the table the rest of the way. That's going to be tough. That is going to be tough. All right, guys, before I get out of here, this is not a long show, but before I get out of here, let me just bring this in. Clayton Huron's to second place, baby. Absolutely. I mentioned that earlier, and you're absolutely right. We are in second place by virtue of the Chargers losing to the Packers and the Raiders losing to the Dolphins. The Broncos jumped over both of them from 4th to 2nd, and they vaulted themselves into second place. Now, we're not going to catch the Chiefs, but it doesn't matter. We're not concerned about that. We're concerned about just making the playoffs, hopefully. Alex Smith is in the house. Alex, how you doing, my friend? Why were we wearing white jerseys at home in the Raiders game in week 1? It was just one of those things. I don't know. The NFL and the Broncos organization with any team, what they do is they allow them to have alternate uniforms, alternate helmet. What's the other one? The rush jerseys, that kind of thing. That's why last night they were in their all blues, which I absolutely love. So last night they were in their all blues, There was a game at home where it was a Jets game where they were there in their snow cap, all white with the white helmet. That was pretty slick. I like that one. And then their home jerseys are always orange for the most part. But against the Raiders, they wore the white because that was an alternate one. And so that's the reason why they do that, because they have the option and the opportunity to. It's all about marketing. It's all about marketing, Alex. It always is. It always is. If they can show something different, something new, fans are going to flock to it. They're going to flock to it because it's different. It's new. Hey, look at this, what I got. That's why they do the whole military thing on the sidelines this whole month. I mean, it's to honor the military and support the military, absolutely. But it's all about marketing. It's all about getting out new products so that so that fans will wear what their favorite team coaches and players are wearing. That is the main reason. All right. Clayton says, nope, we've got to beat the Lions. I know we do, but I just don't see that right now, Clayton. I really don't. The way the Lions are playing are 8-2. That's the first time since 1962 that they've done that with JFK as president. That's the first time. So I don't see the Broncos winning that game. I'm just setting that aside. If it happens, fantastic. It'd be amazing. All right, Clayton goes on and says 28-21 Broncos against Detroit. Okay. I'll tell you what, Clayton. I want you to be in the chat on the Broncos breakdown prior to that game, which is 3 games from now. So prior to that game, I want you in the chat and we will talk about it. How's that? Because we'll have a little bit better handle as far as what Detroit's doing leading up to that game and what the Broncos are doing leading up to that game. If the Broncos continue their win streak, you may be onto something. If the Broncos all of a sudden falter against Cleveland and then Houston, and then we play the Chargers, and who knows then, and then we play the Lions, I take it back. It's 4 games from now. And then we play the Lions. I don't know. We'll have to see. That's still a ways down the road of the season. But I like the way you think. Absolutely like the way you think. All right, Kamani says, I guess Vance Joseph's job is safe. I think we can beat the Lions. Wow, that's 2. Clayton and Kamani say the Lions can be beat. Okay, I'm not saying they can't. I just, at this point in time right now, I'm being very, very reserved. I don't want to get well over my head in thinking that the Broncos are going to run the tables and win the next 7 games. That would be fantastic. I just don't want to stick my skinny neck out too far because it might get chopped off, and I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying, I'm just holding back 1 game at a time, guys. We're on a 4-game win streak. We got Cleveland next. I will talk about that on my Friday show. But I love the way you guys think. All right. Last comment before I get out of here. Alex Smith says the snow-capped helmets are cool, but no, we wear orange jerseys at home. Bill, I know. But the NFL allows teams to have alternate jerseys. And I love the all blues. I absolutely do. I just think that orange pops. Go back and watch some of the highlights, and that orange just jumps out and pops. It really does. And I'm sorry, it's my favorite. It's my favorite uniform. Absolutely favorite uniform the Broncos have. I don't mind the orange, but the blues are my favorite. The white snow cap was really sweet. I really liked that one. That was pretty cool. But yes, Alex, you're right. The main jersey of the Broncos is the orange jersey with the white pants. That's very true. But if the league allows them to use alternate uniforms, alternate helmets, they're going to do that from time to time because it's all about revenue. It absolutely is. All right, here we go. Kamani, you got the last one. I promise. I should call this show the one more chat take before I'm out of here. I think Texans and Chargers will be our loss. Ooh, yeah, you might have something on the but the Chargers, we haven't played the Chargers both games yet. We could lose one, but if we lose one to the Chargers and we lose to the Texans, then we can't lose to Cleveland and we can't lose to the Lions. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. The Lions, to me, is the game that I'm focused on because of what their record is and how solid they are. But I understand what you guys are saying. I'll tell you what, meet me on Friday, 5 p.m. when I do the Broncos Breakdown show. We will talk about all of this stuff, guys. I absolutely will. I love talking to you guys. I just don't want to make this recap show that very long because it's just a recap. But I really appreciate you guys being in the chat. As always, you guys are the best. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving this coming Thursday. And the Broncos and Broncos fans got a Thanksgiving gift last night when the Denver Broncos came from behind, beat the Minnesota Vikings 21-20. That's absolutely phenomenal. Thank goodness. All right, one more run through the names. Thanks, guys, for being in the chat as always. Christopher, Kamani, Clayton, Alex. Thanks so much, guys, for being in the chat. You guys are the best. Like I mentioned many, many times, you make this show, each and every one of you watching, whether you're in the chat or not, watching, supporting, thumbs up, all of that. You guys make this show better than it ever could be. You guys are the backbone, and I greatly appreciate it each and every week. Alex, I absolutely appreciate you asking the question. Thanks so much. Alex says, thank you, Bill, for answering our questions. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to – you guys take the time to be in the chat. You guys take the time to be watching this show, supporting this network. The least I can do is return the favor. Thanks, guys, for each and every one of you, week in, week out, show in and show out that I do and that others do. Guys, you are the best. May each and every one of you have a very happy, safe Thanksgiving, and I will see you this coming Friday, Broncos Breakdown, 5 p.m. Kamai says, we love you, Bill. Hey, I'm telling you guys, I love you guys back. You guys are the best. All right? Until Friday, you guys be safe. I will talk to you and see you then. Bring your questions, bring your comments. I will answer them. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.